Hello everyone, this is Kestrel and I have been working very hard at expanding my job search this week after that total freak scare we had on Sunday with the possibility of nuclear war raining down upon us. Seems we've averted that for at least a little while, though if the Democrats get a majority in Congress anytime soon, it will still probably happen, because the left is filled with haters and warmongers as it is. We are still in a very dangerous position, but there may be some renewed hope. First, we have a lot of the concerning issues still at large to talk about. So it is time for all conservatives to knuckle down and get to work. So let's talk. I'm happy to share with all my viewers that I am one of the many subscribers to the Daily Wire, and as usual, Ben Shapiro and the others are very good at explaining situations and hypothesizing on with what to do with them. So the Ben Shapiro Show's episode 519 looks at a little bit of the interview between George Stephanopoulos and James Comey. And some of you are aware, and others are about to be, James Comey was the head of the FBI, the same FBI that failed to inform the Americans that the compiled documents that led to this extremely dangerous investigation into a supposed, without evidence, supposed collusion between Donald Trump, now President of the United States, and Russia to win the 2016 election was financed by Hillary Clinton. Which means that Donald Trump's political enemies themselves paid for a document, this was known as the Steele dossier, to be written based on completely made-up stories, brought to the FISA courts and launched an investigation which strained U.S. relations with Russia, a very real foreign relations issue. Those relations going bad can spell disaster for the entire world. James Comey failed to tell not only Trump, not only the American people, but the courts themselves that all of this was based on nonsense compiled by people who hated Donald Trump and the Republican Party's guts to begin with. Hillary Clinton's deplorable message during the campaign revealed exactly that. And yet, because this information was never given to anyone until Trump and the Republicans pushed for months to have it revealed, we were all force-fed Russia collusion crap for the entire year of 2017 by CNN and other mainstream media networks who damn well knew it was bullshit. Just for money, ratings, and power. And not only are we understandably damn sick and tired of it, the Russians very justifiably are as well. The FBI also received direct calls and messages this year that the shooter who left a bloody trail in the Parkland, Florida high school, which led to this unfairly named March for Our Lives movement, unfairly named because no gun rights activist wants to see anyone get killed. Quite the opposite. It's just that we are aware that a disarmed population is an open field of sitting ducks for exactly what happened in Parkland to happen. The need for the right to bear arms is wonderfully demonstrated in films like the Taken series, the 2018 movie Death Wish, which I have a review of on my channel, or if you pay attention to history, pretty much any and every time a country's population is disarmed. Now, George Stephanopoulos was the former chief of staff for the Clintons. So, we had to sit down by two people who were both intimately tied with the Clintons, talking with each other, who were talking like two people where one friend was only very mildly probing another friend, and no real insight or deposition took place. That should surprise no one. It also should surprise no one, given how gentle the media were in their analysis and criticism of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, and how vicious they were in going after Trump, even based on bullshit stories, with very dicey evidence behind them, if any at all, that they are heavily biased in favor of Comey. And those two idiots who sat down for an ego fest, really, on ABC News were just so high on themselves, and any advice from them is worthless. It's worthless. There were a couple of points in the course of this interview that Shapiro goes over himself that I'd just like to add a bit more to. The first is when Stephanopoulos asked Comey if the interview, if he ever informed President Trump that the Steele dossier, which I will remind everyone again, was compiled of entirely bullshit claims, was financed by his political opponent. Comey said no. Comey said no. He didn't feel that giving the president this information served his interest. Meaning Comey's or the FBI's. So let me translate this situation for anyone who wants a simple version of what this means. This means that the head of the FBI, the head of investigations into national security, did and does not feel that the leader of the country needed to know that current and ongoing investigations into him, into the commander-in-chief of the country itself, were put together by his own political enemies. Let that sink in for a few moments. Forget who the players were, just think about what that means. And you may understand the sheer level of dishonesty and danger the people we thought we could trust with our national safety were actually playing with. The president is absolutely owed that information. The people of the country are owed that information. And that is the information that the Democrats spent the entire year of 2017 trying their very hardest to hide from everyone, using the Russia collusion lies as distraction. Stephanopoulos also asked Comey whether he, meaning Comey, believes that the Russians have something on Donald Trump. Comey says, I quote, "I think it's possible, but I don't know." The mainstream media fed us collusion conspiracy stories for an entire year, nearly bringing us into all-out war with Russia, and you, the head of the FBI, or were, still saying you don't know? Then how about you not feed us bullshit until you know what's true and what's not? I mean, well, you knew it was not. They just didn't want to reveal that information. No wonder the Parkland shooter had such an easy time slaughtering children and teachers, even when the FBI received warnings in advance. They were busy making up bullshit because they were upset that they lost an election you worked hard to rig. The scale of the incompetence, the only thing that's actually stunning here is that anyone bought this bullshit at all. Have we completely abandoned basic logic as a society, people? You know, Trump's only mistake at all when it came to James Comey was not kicking his ass out of the FBI on day one. Not to mention never letting him anywhere near a position of power ever again. I hope he's done that at least. Comey spent a good deal of the interview saying that President Trump was not medically unfit to be president, he was morally unfit. Okay, the first contradiction in that is a huge amount of the tantrum thrown by the Democrats and the mainstream media was about some psychologist or psychologists not sure if it was one or plural or how much credibility any of them had at all, because they were certainly all biased, if these people even existed in the first place. Saying that Donald Trump was a mental equivalent of a toddler, I remember comments about that very distinctly because a lot of my family would repeat them like leftist parrots over and over at dinner and family gatherings, and just can't believe it. Can't believe the level of the incompetence. So the left did attempt to make medical and mental based claims. Not that they had any basis for it to begin with, but they did try and play the medically unfit card. Now the second contradiction there is, well, there's two parts. First part is, Democrats stacked the election against Donald Trump in just about every way imaginable. From calling his base racists and sexists and deplorables without reason, to stacking the debates against him, to Antifa assaulting conservatives all over the place, violently, even to the point of almost beating some of them to death, to flooding the country with illegal immigrants and allowing them to vote. My God, I went to my city's Board of Elections to just update my address a couple of weeks ago to make sure my voting registration was current for the upcoming city issues voting and midterms later this year. Plus, I'm every day getting calls from universities trying to lure me back to school for a graduate degree program, which I'm not doing because it would be another loan of tens of thousands of dollars when I'm already having to conserve money to get by each month while I work on job hunting. I work on many job hunting projects and other projects at once, trying to keep some relations with family, even though it's in shreds. I've just agreed to receive some information should anything really interesting or any good deal come up ever, and I have to constantly confirm that I am a U.S. citizen, which I am. I was born and raised in the United States. How do people without records of any kind get to register to vote when I have to confirm citizenship to do so much as the smallest government-related things? I very strongly suggest that when you have any dealings or discussions with the state, you ask them what they are doing to make sure only U.S. citizens actually get to vote. I'm serious. Ask them that. Really bug them about that. This is going to be really important. You want to talk about unfair? True unfairness is when people born in one country trying to build a decent, honorable living for themselves have to check and confirm their citizenship to do the smallest bureaucratic exchanges. Yet, because the dishonorable political party is unhappy with the reality of the last election, they let in people who will vote for their agenda they want from places they know nothing about, coming from situations they haven't seen and haven't risk assessed themselves, and let them vote in droves. And as a long-term result, actually within only a couple of years, really, as we're seeing in Europe, in California, in all places around the world, everyone suffers. That is what I call real injustice. And it is going to take some serious vigilance to stand against. And I need everyone to send letters, send emails, tweets, any and all, to their Republican representatives in Congress and in the courts. Yeah, we'll talk about that whole shenanigan with the unlawful Supreme Court justice who just turned on the country in a bit, and tell them to stand firm against letting more people illegally into the country, and especially letting them vote. America very literally cannot take care of any more people. In the meantime, where were we? Oh yes. So the left has played dirty from the start. Democrats do not get to play the morality card. You don't get to give the morality argument anymore, left. You don't. You just don't. James Comey has absolutely no business questioning anyone else's morality anymore. He's blown that. The entire FBI has blown that. The entire Democratic Party has blown that. Do I have issues with Republicans? Yes, but they don't even come close in comparison. We will address the spending. That will be a whole nother discussion. It is getting late, so I am going to sign off for tonight. We have a lot more to talk about. I will put in a link to Ben Shapiro's episode 519 show. In order to see the whole show, you need to subscribe to the Daily Wire, which I highly suggest. They are great episodes, and you get several other podcasters and shows as well, and they're all very informative. So I will be back with another part very soon, and I am going to keep making videos on other topics as well. But for tonight, I just have to sign out because it is getting really late, and we're going to have a lot to talk about.